Alright everyone, we start off today talking about how bad Biden's economy is. Of course, he'd like to take credit if things were going well. As opposed to this, he largely won't answer questions about economic issues, and I fucking wonder why. 4.9% inflation, actually, for the month of August. We got the new inflation numbers as of yesterday. This is in line with excessive inflation we've had now since April. It's been above expected each subsequent month. It's been excessive each subsequent month. The cost of consumer goods and gas and everything else is sky high compared to more recent historical norms. At what point do people wise up and say, hey, this is beginning to affect my wallet. It's beginning to affect literally everything about society, especially if it involves energy. One of the first things he does is cancel Keystone, which doesn't have a major impact immediately because, of course, it wasn't quite complete, but certainly isn't going to help long term. Now we have Biden doing his daily Hurricane Ida bullshit where he talks about his dad telling him to keep the faith and weird shit like that, which may or may not have ever even happened. And he's always bragging about, oh, we freed up more oil so that people would have access to energy more easily. Well, I thought oil was the devil. I mean, certainly plenty of Democrats seem to believe this is the case. Now, Biden, of course, he doesn't. But he still attacked the energy sector. That has a profound impact on the economy as well as on consumer confidence, which, by the way, is down like more than 10 points year over year. So, again, people aren't quite as confident in the economy, and that confidence also affects investment. It affects what people do, their plans with regards to employment, investing in a home, buying a car and stuff. If they don't have confidence that the economy is going in the right direction, businesses especially might be more reluctant to invest in larger projects, which in turn slows down your growth. Now, first and foremost, before we get into this, because there's a demographic element to it that actually makes it, in the mind of the legacy media, more newsworthy and much more stinging for Biden, which I thought was funny because everything these days boils down to race and gender and shit. First and foremost, there will be a pinned comment down below. If you're watching this video on YouTube, keep in mind, links in there to other video hosting sites that I use. I make 2 exclusive videos a day there that don't go onto YouTube. So if you're just watching on YouTube, you're getting half the Daily Clank. It's rather sad. Also, you should follow on Twitch also because I'm live streaming there as well. I haven't had a Kamala event in a long time. I wish that she would do a presser. Answer a few questions. She's not very good at it, but then I can do my Squidward impression. So everybody pray to your respective deities, or don't, depending on your religious views, that Kamala will stop being a complete absentee and go back to being a partial absentee vice president. A little Kamala goes a long way, but once in a while a ridicule stream would be fun. There are 2 links in the description of this video, both archived, of course, although I believe the archive.today right now is having some server issues. This happens once in a while. I'm assuming everything will be back up. Usually what happens is like if one country, takes down their servers or something, they just end up moving it because they're all over the place, mostly in Asia. The first one is that actually the joblessness, joblessness is actually on the rise again and is historically high, specifically among black Americans. Now, do I care about one demographic over another? No. To me, that's not newsworthy. It's unfortunate for those communities. It would be just as bad if it were skewed towards white communities, Hispanic communities, whatever. But the legacy media actually does care about that and will exploit this. Especially right-wing groups will say, well, look, Biden's economy is leaving behind a core constituency of the Democratic Party. They're not wrong. It might be a Dems are the real racist sort of argument to make, but they're not incorrect. One thing that was helping Trump among groups of people, groups of voters that historically lean heavily towards the Democrats is that actually elements of his recovery, his economy, were disproportionately doing well, especially for Hispanic Americans. Biden is doing the opposite. The specific kind of economic attacks that he has launched on various sectors, the regulations and so forth, and certainly the Democrats cheering on the defund the police movement, haven't done well with regards to many demographically diverse communities within the United States. Then, of course, the second link is about the inflation. 4.9 is lower than it was. I think it was 5.2 the prior month and 5.4 the last. The Democrats' big story of the day, well, it's moving in the right direction. Well, it won't if you pass the infrastructure bill. That's going to be like a ticking time bomb for consumer prices. And thankfully at this point it's hazarded because it looks like Manchin's getting cold feet with regards to supporting $3.5 trillion of additional spending, and now he's doing the thing where he says, well, maybe we should have some fiscal restraint because, down the road we might need that funding for some other purpose, which is wise, although it's grandstanding, and in the end he'll lean towards voting for it. He's probably just trying to excise some of the pork out of it, which in and of itself isn't bad. At least he's helping, unlike most of the Democrats. When you have joblessness now, like job growth has more or less stalled. Joblessness is actually now on the rise again in certain areas, and some of this is COVID related, not related to the disease itself, but the response. Keep in mind, if you look at a demographic map in the United States, minority voters, people who are black and so forth, tend more to be urbanites, whereas the outlying small town and rural areas are overwhelmingly white. And so when you get a state that is more developed or more urban, like New Jersey or parts of New York, and you have those demographics in those areas that are more lockdown prone, more business restriction prone, you inevitably create a situation where you're depressing the economy, depressing job availability, and causing havoc for people in places that are less white. They're majority minority, so to speak. This has not been well thought out by the Democrats, and it seems like, I'm sure that Biden probably doesn't even want that. Behind closed doors, I think that he wants to throttle back on the restrictions and lockdown sort of side of things and just use COVID as an excuse to get more authoritarian, like a COVID passport system going. I think that's the direction he would like to go in. But the response is almost entirely state and local. It's run by mayors of big cities, especially, and by state governors. Most of the red state governors have abolished restrictions to the point where some of them are attempting to pass legislation or executive orders to prevent lockdowns, to prevent mandates, to prevent restrictions. This is not happening in urban California, New York City. It's not happening in Massachusetts or in New Jersey, and so you end up with this economic differential. It's very easily explained by the business environment in these various states, and by the economy somewhat. Of course, the field can still be tilled up. Nobody's saying to the farmer, you have to wear a hazmat suit to get on your tractor out in the middle of Nowheresville to farm his corn or his soybeans or whatever. Plenty of people, plenty of mayors and governors are telling urbanites, though, you need to have a PCR test to get a burger, mandatory vaccine, COVID passport in order to, go to the gym. You can't open your business at full capacity because reasons, so you have to operate in a brownout mode, which means more of your employees are still laid off. You got a business, and you got 10 employees. Let's say it's a small, like a chain store. You get 10 people that work there at any given time. And you're only allowed 50% capacity. You can only open every other aisle, or you can only have a certain number of people in the store, or whatever. Guess what you're going to do? The only justified thing that you can do is to cut your workforce in half, because you've got half as many people to serve, by and large. By the way, this reduces your bottom line considerably, because you still have all the lights on, probably. All the coolers are still cooling ice cream. It's just there's half as many people buying it. The efficiency level drops, therefore, like a rock. This is the result of liberal-style COVID policies more than anything else. And second to that, attacks on the energy industry. That's what's causing this economic problem. That and the original enormous spending spree that Biden went on with his first stimulus, which, remember, it fell short of expectations. It was $1,400, and they said, well, on top of the initial $600, it makes $2,000, and that was his campaign pledge. By the way, fundamentally correct. But leftoids don't know how to do math. They wanted an additional $400 on top of that. The inflation would be even higher. That's what's causing this, by the way. It correlates exactly to the time frame in which the inflation would begin to show up. Again, roughly 4 or 5 months. Some people claim, well, no, it was actually Trump's stimulus over a year ago. I'm doubting that. Trump at least could reabsorb some of the damage done by spending policies because otherwise the economy was strong and he was deregulating things. Biden's moving in the opposite direction. And now that we have a looming potential hostage crisis in Afghanistan, what better time to say, well, basically we do have another Jimmy Carter. It's just this time he's less honest and he suffers from dementia. What a great fucking time. That's about all. Peace out.